What do CEOs need to know about sales these days? A lot. Outdated sales strategies and tactics plague most companies today. Listen to what innovative CEOs and experts have to say about how to change all that with Sales Talk for CEOs. Welcome to Sales Talk for CEOs. Today's solo episode is focused on something that I have been talking to all of my clients about recently, and that is go-to-market workflow. So what I've been noticing is that it's hard for companies to meet the customer where they are because the workflows that they have in place are old, and they're still following those workflows even though they've decided they want to focus more on the customer journey and meeting the customer where they are. The workflows aren't working. And I want to give you a few examples so that you as CEO can start thinking about this and talk to your team about the go-to-market workflows and re-looking at them, right? Now, if you don't even have them documented to begin with, that doesn't mean they're not there. People are doing these workflows, right? But if they're not documented, let's get them documented. What do you do now as a workflow? Once it's documented, it will be easier to see, right, where the gaps are, where the problems are, what needs to change. But where you already do have them documented, that's great because you can start there and start to look at them. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of some workflows that are not working that have to change. So a lot of you use Salesforce.com or some type of CRM. And then you also use HubSpot or some type of marketing automation software where you're sending out your newsletters, you're sending out emails about trade shows, and you're sending out all your marketing messaging from that, right? And then over here, you have your CRM, which sometimes looks a little bit like a dumpster full of data, right? It's just a mess. And, you know, I'm sorry if that offends you, but every CRM I've ever looked into is a mess of data. And it's hard because when we started years ago, we were doing one thing, then we put all this data in, things change a little bit, and the data just keeps piling up in there and we never take the time to clean it up. So some of us need to do some serious CRM cleanup, but you know, that's just something that's going to happen at some point for you to be able to get your workflow improved. So you have your CRM over here and you are tracking opportunities in there. You're putting your contacts in, you're putting the accounts in, the companies, you know, in their headquarters, you're putting the contacts, all the people that work at that company that you know or need to know. And then when they're an opportunity, you're using that opportunity tab in your CRM and opening an opportunity. And then there's this leads tab that in Salesforce anyway, is used pretty poorly by most of the companies I've ever seen. So little cleanup there too. So I'm going to try to explain how we can improve these workflows, right? We have to start thinking about what is the current workflow now from marketing to sales, right? So it's from hello to I'm your loyal customer. What is that workflow? So if the hello is mostly done by marketing, which it probably is, sometimes it's done by sales too, because they're out on social media or they're out at a trade show. So that very first peek at your business could come from a salesperson, but generally it's coming from marketing. It's, you know, somebody's Googling, they land on your website, they see your social media, they might see your ads, you know, so that's the hello. They're aware that you now exist. So from that time where they go, oh, this is interesting to me, anybody on the buying team, maybe simultaneously or maybe not, they're seeing this information and going, and that's interesting, need to know more. So what do they do next, right? And how do we meet them while they're doing that? So the workflow is going to help us do that. And so we think, okay, it comes into our marketing automation first, most of the time. Again, some of the time I get it. A salesperson prospects and it comes straight in to the CRM. It's going to bypass marketing. But for the most part, the bulk of these leads, the interest from people is coming in through marketing. It's a web form. It's they downloaded something. It's, we bought a list and sent them an email and they responded to it. Even when it's trade show, we might have swiped their badge or talked to them for a few minutes, but then marketing takes that and puts it into the automation. So they're in there. Now, there's what we call SQLs and MQLs. An SQL is a sales qualified lead. An MQL is a marketing qualified lead. And I have seen so many different definitions for each of those. It's mind-boggling. But I want you to think of it this way. A marketing qualified lead is someone showed some interest and marketing should nurture that interest. So they might have attended a webinar. They might have downloaded a paper. They might have showed up at a trade show, but they didn't say, I want to talk to a salesperson. So we nurture them to the point where they do say, I'd like to talk to a salesperson. That's when it becomes a sales qualified lead. Now, I know a lot of you are going, oh, no, that's not the way we do it at our company, or I don't know how we do it at our company. And as CEO, you might not, because you really shouldn't be in the weeds, but you need to find out, again, about these workflows. And are these workflows updated to where we can meet the customers where they are? So if marketing is nurturing these leads until they say, yes, I'm interested, I'd like to talk to a salesperson, then it becomes a sales qualified lead. It could also become a sales qualified lead because a salesperson met them at a networking event or a trade show, or maybe they even cold called them and the person said, yes, I'm interested in talking about about your solutions, about my problem and your solutions, and do they fit? But truly, to be a sales qualified lead, someone would have had to say that they're interested. They have a problem they want to talk about. They want to learn more. Otherwise, it's still marketing qualified. Now, sometimes salespeople work with marketing qualified leads. People who had interest, they've never talked to them yet. They haven't raised their hand and said, I want to talk to a salesperson. But the salesperson will use a tool like Apollo or any of those automated tools where they can send cadences out to humans that are, shown some little bit of interest. Again, they're trying to get them to be sales qualified, right? They're trying to get them to the point where they want to talk to a salesperson. So marketing and sales have blended so much today, right? In the way that we prospect, salespeople are doing marketing. It's just the way that it is. And we have to get them to be really good at it, because if they're going to nurture a person who had some interest until they're ready to talk, they're going to have to learn how to write really good messaging. So here we go with this workflow. So we've got all this stuff in marketing. We've got it into the marketing automation. We've got the CRM over here. We're trying to load really good, solid data in there so that salespeople can follow up and talk to people who are interested. So think about the workflow between the marketing automation and the sales automation. So what I've had to untangle lately for several of my clients is that everything from the marketing automation is being dumped into Salesforce, into the lead section. Whether it's marketing qualified or sales qualified, it's just all going there. I'd like to suggest a different way. I'd like to suggest that the workflow changes so that marketing retains those contacts, the account names, the contact names, and nurtures those until they become at least closer to being a sales qualified, right? And then at that point, they come over automatically, I hope, or manually entered if that's the way you're doing it. And when they come from marketing, now we've got data, hopefully clean, and it's people who are actually interested that salespeople should be following up with. That should come into the CRM. And it should come in as, here's the complete account information, which is the company name, whatever you know about the company, their headquarters, their phone numbers, and any other information about that company that will be useful to salespeople gets put in there. Then if you have contacts, people who have been interacting with the marketing, they've either downloaded something, they're clicking open or clicking through on emails, maybe they attended a webinar, whatever it is. So you now know the names of these people and their titles and maybe even their phone number, and they get put into the contacts section of your CRM, right? Now, there's no opportunities yet, but now this information is in there, the account, the company name, the contacts. Now there's this lead section where the leads that salespeople will be prospecting, actively prospecting, they live there. Now, here's what happens. Lots of stuff get dumped in there that no one's following up on or working with at all. And then more stuff gets dumped in and the old stuff just stays there. It never gets cleaned up. But think about this workflow. What if everything in that leads section of your CRM is being actively pursued, right? So when it's marketing, it's in the marketing automation and they're actively pursuing it. It's marketing people pursuing it with emails and invitations to webinars and invitations to trade shows, right? That's active. When it's in the lead section of your CRM, that means a salesperson is actively pursuing it, not marketing. So that means that it's constantly changing because salespeople will pursue it for a period of time. If they can't get anybody to agree to a phone call after, 8 to 12 attempts, a mixture of phone calling, emails, social media touches, whatever else you've got, some people are doing direct mail, sending gifts. After this period of time, trying to reach this person, and that is longer than you think, right? It's 8 to 12 touches. Then it goes back to marketing, right? It doesn't just live in leads forever. Now, that doesn't mean the contact information goes out of the database, and it doesn't mean the account goes out of the database. That stays there. But in that lead section, if a salesperson isn't actively pursuing it, it goes back to marketing. Imagine what that would be like. Now that means that lead section of Salesforce or whatever CRM you use is really useful because you can pull reports that show what each salesperson is actually pursuing. Because the minute they stop and they say, I'm not going to pursue this anymore because I've given it 12 touches and they haven't responded at all, it should go back to marketing, right? So these are leads that are actively being pursued and salespeople are attempting to get an appointment with one or more of the contacts from any of the companies that are in there, right? Then we can really see the motion that the salespeople are doing, like all those leads, how many of them get converted into an opportunity, right? So you're meeting the customer where they are with your sales and marketing work, and you can see it because you're saying these people over here did something when the marketing people sent them something. They clicked through, they read something, they downloaded something, they attended a webinar, they attended a trade show, right? You can see they're actively engaging with the marketing. And now if a salesperson starts to pursue them, they might be able to get a phone call. So they're in between being a marketing qualified lead and a sales qualified lead at that point in this lead section where salespeople take over from marketing and actually attempt to call and reach these people. And that's where they also might be sending some one-to-one messaging to them from a tool like Apollo, right? So we have marketing doing one-to-many messaging to see whether they can get these people interested. It moves over and salespeople start attempting to actually get a conversation with them. Once they get those conversations and realize there's an interest and they're going to determine if there's a fit, they can click that magic button and turn that into an opportunity. Now those opportunities start aging when they're actually an opportunity and not while they're being prospected, which is what's happening now in most of the companies I work with. They're aging based on prospecting, not on an actual opportunity. So once they're over there in that opportunity, now you're tracking real opportunities and your forecast will become so much clearer. The key to this workflow is in the leads section, the only things that can be there are actual in pursuit. A salesperson is pursuing them, trying to get a conversation with them. Once a salesperson stops doing that, they need to go back to marketing. In the opportunities, the only thing that can be converted to an opportunity is where a salesperson is actively working on moving that opportunity forward through your funnel. Now they might find out that there's no deal there. That's fine. And it falls out. You can put them back to marketing nurture. That's fine. But they're actively pursuing them. So nothing is sitting there aging without a salesperson touching it. So this is an example of a workflow that most companies don't have working well, and therefore it becomes a lot of friction points for the buyers. And what we don't want is for our customers to have friction. We want it to be easy for them to buy from us. So this is a workflow that we need to examine from hello to I'm your loyal customer. So once those salespeople are pursuing these opportunities and they become closed won, then where does the relationship get tracked? So that's usually still in your CRM, and maybe a customer service or customer support person or an account manager has taken over, but they're still going to keep notes in that CRM and continue working with that company and expanding in that company and hopefully finding more opportunities. That needs to be tracked as well, so that anyone who touches the customer has a single point of truth to go to. So let's say accounting has to call them, or a subject matter expert has to call them, or a new person has to call on your customer. It's in there. They can read all the notes. They can see what's happened. And that way they can delight the customer when they call, because the customer doesn't have to repeat everything or tell them the whole history, right? It's in there. They know the names of all the contacts. They know the conversations that have been had. They know what has been purchased. It's all in there. So it's, again, from hello to I'm your loyal customer. What is that entire workflow look like? And is it helping you meet the customer where they are? Or is it creating friction? You as CEO need to get your team to dive into this and tell you, like, show you that they have this mapped really well, that this workflow is working, right? Most of you, it won't be. They'll have to make some improvements for sure. And just giving you that one example of what's happening with marketing and sales is an example of a go-to-market workflow that isn't working well at most companies. There are probably others as well. But what I'm going to urge you to do is just talk to your leaders, your sales leaders, your customer success leaders, your marketing leaders, and talk about that workflow. And because today, right, we call it go-to-market because all three of those teams have to work together. They're the, it's revenue operations, everything that helps us bring in revenue and touch the customer and keep them happy, all of that, whatever you call it, that's what it is. It's the whole picture around the customer and all the people from your company that touch the customer. How do their workflows integrate from marketing to sales to account management and customer support or customer success? How does that all flow to make sure there's no friction for the customer? And how do you see that and know that it's working? That's what I want you to take a look at, so that your customers are supremely happy and your company can continue to grow at the pace you want it to grow. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. and we'll see you next week.